Bending the bar to find more lats is one of the most misused cues in powerlifting. Now, I'm not saying it's a totally useless cue because there are some circumstances where I will want to use it, but I'm definitely not using it the same way that most coaches do with maximum driving pinky and twisting into the bar as hard as they can from the very beginning. And I get it because the whole point of that cue is to control elbow flare, but flare isn't always the enemy of a raw bencher, and trying to twist from the top isn't going to help you find any lats. Because if we look at lat anatomy, the first thing I want you to notice is that the lats wrap up around the inside of your armpit, meaning that when your arm is out in front of you at the top of your bench stroke and you contract the lats, they're going to be an internal rotator, which is the opposite of what that whole bend the bar pinky torque cue is trying to do. And if we have someone who is benching with a moderate to wide grip and we're just getting them to torque the crap out of the bar, they're likely going to end up over tucked in a shitty pterodactyl position and have no real leverage to reverse the bar. Because for most draw benchers, sternal pecs are important, and letting that humerus track a little bit wider is going to let us use them better. The next thing I want you to notice if we're looking at lat anatomy is that it's a very broad muscle, and with that broadness comes differing fiber orientations through its vertical length. With the lat stuff up top being more horizontal and the stuff down low being more vertically orientated. With those differing fiber orientations having differing influences on the humerus's motion, with the more horizontally oriented fibers being better at pulling in like that, and the more vertically oriented fibers being better at pulling in like that. And because the lats attach to the humerus and the humerus attaches to the shoulder blade, those vertically orientated lat fibers are going to aid in creating scapular depression and thoracic extension when they pull everything down. And no matter how you bench press, no matter your amount of flare versus your amount of tuck, it is those vertically orientated fibers that I'm going to be trying to find the most of during your bench eccentric, because those fibers are the ones that are going to co-contract against the lateral delt to allow us to maintain scapular and ribcage position. The way we're going to try to find those fibers is not by twisting externally against the bar, but by trying to do a straight arm pull down against the lip of the J hook through our bench unrack to get those fibers on, and then we can just finish the unrack by continuing to pull out with the lats once the bar has cleared the lip of the hook. And that's really it. If you get that lat pull through the unrack and you don't bench like a total mess, you can basically just shut your brain off and that tension is going to take over and the bar is going to go where it needs to go. If you are someone who does struggle with ending up in that overtucked pterodactyl position in the bottom of your bench, what I'd actually cue through your unrack isn't pinky torque, but internal rotation torque towards your index finger to try to catch more of those vertical lat fibers to pull everything down without creating excessive tuck. But that still leaves those upper horizontally orientated flappy boys of the lat. And the only time I'd really be worried about trying to find more of those guys during your bench eccentric is if you're the lifter that has a tendency to lower the bar relatively tucked and then dump the bar below the elbows and flare right in the very bottom. And for that lifter, I am going to be cueing some pinky twist bend the bar, but we're not going to do it from the top. We're going to be trying to focus on finding those vertically orientated lat fibers with that straight arm pull down and then lowering into that tension right up until the point before they want to dump the bar. At that point where they want to dump the bar, that's when you want to cue the bend to get those horizontally oriented lat fibers to kick in to manage the elbow flare. And because we're lower in the bench stroke, that pinky torque is no longer internally rotating the humerus. It's just pulling the humerus closer towards the rib cage to help us manage that excessive plopping. So if you are the average raw bencher, you probably don't need to worry about bending the bar, especially if your goal is finding more lat. Just think about getting that straight arm pulled down in. And if you are the guy that does dump into excessive flare, yes, we can start to think about getting a little bit of bend in, but only down towards the point where we need to worry about that excessive flare. And if you want to help me make the world a better place for powerlifters by bringing a higher level of understanding to coaching, cueing, and programming, and get a ton of help with your own lifts, hit that link below to sign up for Team Activated, because this Saturday we are hosting a live lecture on the lats role in the bench press.